I've spent 30 years inside America's intelligence apparatus, and I've never seen anything like the desperation driving current deep state operations. They know Trump's return means their destruction, so they're implementing the final solution: destroy America to save their power. I'm Director James Morrison, and tonight I'm exposing the Civil War conspiracy that threatens to end the United States as we know it. What I'm about to reveal will shock every patriotic American who still believes our constitutional republic can be saved through peaceful means. The deep state has abandoned all pretense of democratic governance and is actively planning to trigger a civil war rather than allow Donald Trump to return to power. The classified intelligence I'm presenting tonight comes from patriots within the system who refuse to participate in the destruction of America. They've risked everything to ensure the American people know what's being planned in their name. These documents detail Operation Chaos, a comprehensive plan to create nationwide violence, economic collapse, and social breakdown that will justify the suspension of constitutional government and the permanent elimination of electoral democracy in America. This isn't about politics anymore. This is about the survival of the American Republic against forces determined to destroy it rather than surrender control. The Deep State Civil War Plan operates under the codename Operation Chaos and involves coordinated attacks on American society designed to create conditions justifying martial law and the suspension of constitutional government. Dr. Sarah Mitchell worked as a strategic planner for the Department of Homeland Security's Continuity of Government Division. Her job was to develop contingency plans for maintaining government operations during national emergencies. What Mitchell discovered was that continuity of government planning had been weaponized to create a blueprint for destroying constitutional democracy while maintaining the appearance of emergency response procedures. Mitchell documented how Operation Chaos coordinates economic warfare, mass immigration destabilization, racial violence triggering, and media psychological operations to create simultaneous crises that overwhelm local and state government response capabilities. The operation is designed to create cascading failures across multiple systems simultaneously, making normal government response impossible and justifying extraordinary emergency measures that eliminate constitutional protections. Mitchell preserved planning documents showing how Operation Chaos targets specific demographic groups, geographic regions, and economic sectors to maximize social disruption while minimizing the deep state's ability to maintain control over essential infrastructure. The plan specifically targets Trump supporters, conservative communities, and rural areas for systematic economic and social destruction to eliminate organized resistance to deep state control. When Mitchell attempted to expose Operation Chaos through official channels, she was told that discussing continuity planning could compromise national security and result in prosecution for unauthorized disclosure. Operation Chaos begins with systematic economic warfare designed to create financial desperation and social instability that can be channeled into political violence. Marcus Rodriguez worked as an analyst for the Federal Reserve's Financial Stability Division. His job was to monitor economic indicators and assess threats to financial system stability. What Rodriguez discovered was that Federal Reserve policies weren't designed to maintain economic stability. They were designed to create controlled economic collapse that would eliminate middle-class wealth and create dependence on government assistance programs. Rodriguez documented how interest rate manipulation, inflation targeting, and banking regulations were coordinated to destroy small businesses, eliminate savings, and force Americans into economic desperation that makes them susceptible to political manipulation. The economic warfare specifically targets conservative business owners, rural communities, and traditional manufacturing sectors that form the economic foundation of Trump's political support. Rodriguez preserved Federal Reserve internal communications showing coordination with other government agencies to time economic disruptions for maximum political impact during the 2024 election cycle. The plan includes systematic destruction of food production, energy infrastructure, and transportation networks to create supply shortages that will be blamed on Trump supporters and used to justify emergency government interventions. When Rodriguez attempted to warn about deliberate economic sabotage, He was transferred to a non-sensitive position and told that questioning Federal Reserve policies could constitute economic terrorism. Operation Chaos uses mass immigration as a demographic weapon to overwhelm social services, create cultural conflict, and provide cover for inserting foreign operatives into American communities. Agent Jennifer Walsh worked for Immigration and Customs Enforcement's Operational Planning Division. Her job was to coordinate immigration enforcement activities and manage border security operations. What Walsh discovered was that immigration enforcement wasn't designed to control illegal immigration. It was designed to facilitate and manage massive population transfers that would fundamentally transform American society and political dynamics. Walsh documented how ICE coordinates with international organizations to transport, house, and distribute illegal immigrants throughout the United States, according to strategic plans designed to maximize political and social disruption. The mass immigration operation specifically targets conservative communities and swing states with large numbers of immigrants who will be dependent on government services and politically loyal to the party that provides them. Walsh preserved communications showing coordination between immigration agencies and political organizations to place immigrants in specific congressional districts where they will affect electoral outcomes and local government operations. The plan includes providing immigrants with voting registration assistance, government benefits, and legal protection that creates permanent political constituencies dependent on continued illegal immigration. When Walsh attempted to expose the strategic use of immigration for political purposes, she was threatened with prosecution for interfering with humanitarian operations and violating immigrant privacy rights. Operation Chaos includes sophisticated psychological operations designed to trigger racial violence that can be used to justify martial law and the suspension of constitutional rights. Dr. Michael Foster worked as a behavioral analyst for the FBI's Domestic Terrorism Division. His job was to assess the potential for domestic violence and develop prevention strategies. What Foster discovered was that domestic terrorism prevention efforts were actually domestic terrorism facilitation efforts designed to identify, radicalize, and manipulate individuals who could be used to trigger racial violence on command. Foster documented how FBI assets infiltrate racial organizations, provide weapons and training, and encourage violent activities that can be activated during politically sensitive periods. The violence triggering system is designed to create simultaneous racial conflicts in multiple cities that will overwhelm local law enforcement and justify federal intervention under martial law authorities. Foster preserved communications showing coordination between FBI field offices about timing racial violence operations to coincide with other aspects of Operation Chaos for maximum social disruption. The plan includes using media assets to amplify racial conflicts while suppressing information about government instigation of violence, creating false narratives that blame Trump supporters for violence actually orchestrated by federal agents. When Foster attempted to expose FBI involvement in orchestrating racial violence, he was told that his analysis was classified and discussing domestic terrorism operations could compromise ongoing investigations. Operation Chaos relies on comprehensive media psychological warfare to manipulate public opinion, create false narratives, and prepare Americans to accept authoritarian control as necessary for their safety. Lisa Park worked as a communications coordinator for a major news network. Her job was to develop news coverage strategies and coordinate with government officials about national security reporting. What Park discovered was that news coverage wasn't based on independent journalism. It was based on psychological warfare scripts developed by intelligence agencies to manipulate public opinion and behavior. Park documented how news organizations receive detailed guidance about which stories to emphasize, which narratives to promote, and which psychological techniques to use to create desired emotional responses in viewers. The media campaign is designed to create maximum fear, confusion, and polarization among Americans while promoting government authority as the only solution to manufactured crises. Park preserved communications showing coordination between news networks about promoting civil war narratives while suppressing information about government instigation of the conflicts they're reporting. The plan includes using crisis coverage to justify emergency government powers while eliminating independent media voices that might expose government involvement in creating the crises. When Park attempted to produce independent journalism about government manipulation of news coverage, she was terminated for violating editorial guidelines and threatened with prosecution for allegedly disclosing classified information. Operation Chaos includes cyber warfare attacks on critical infrastructure designed to create cascading failures that will be blamed on Trump supporters and foreign adversaries. Colonel Robert Hayes worked as a cybersecurity specialist for the Department of Defense's Critical Infrastructure Protection Division. His job was to defend American infrastructure from cyber attacks and develop response capabilities. What Hayes discovered was that infrastructure protection efforts were actually infrastructure targeting efforts designed to identify vulnerabilities that could be exploited by government cyber warriors to create controlled infrastructure failures. Hayes documented how government cyber units have developed capabilities to attack power grids, communication networks, and transportation systems while making the attacks appear to come from foreign adversaries or domestic terrorists. The cyber attacks are designed to be attributed to Trump supporters or foreign governments, providing justification for domestic surveillance, political arrests, and emergency government powers. Hayes preserved evidence showing coordination between cyber warfare units and psychological operations teams to ensure that infrastructure attacks create maximum political impact while protecting government responsibility for the attacks. The plan includes using infrastructure failures to justify internet censorship, banking restrictions, and travel limitations that will prevent organized resistance to government control measures. When Hayes attempted to warn about planned infrastructure attacks, he was told that discussing cyber warfare capabilities could compromise national security and aid foreign adversaries. Operation Chaos has created comprehensive legal authorities that will allow the deep state to suspend constitutional government and eliminate political opposition under the guise of emergency response. Attorney Patricia Williams worked for the Department of Justice's Emergency Authorities Division. Her job was to research legal authorities available during national emergencies and develop implementation procedures. What Williams discovered was that emergency authorities research was actually constitutional suspension research designed to eliminate legal obstacles to authoritarian government during manufactured crises. Williams documented how DOJ has developed legal theories that justify suspending elections, arresting political opponents, and eliminating constitutional rights based on broadly defined national security threats. The legal framework provides authorities to declare Trump supporters domestic terrorists, seize their assets, and detain them indefinitely without trial based on association with insurrectionist activities. Williams preserved legal memos showing how emergency authorities can be used to eliminate congressional oversight, suspend judicial review, and concentrate power in executive agencies controlled by deep state operatives. The plan includes using emergency authorities to nationalize communications, transportation, and financial systems while eliminating private ownership and individual rights that could support resistance activities. When Williams attempted to challenge the constitutional basis for these emergency authorities, she was told that questioning emergency powers during crisis periods could constitute sedition and result in prosecution. Operation Chaos coordinates with foreign intelligence services and international organizations to provide external justification and support for domestic authoritarianism in America. Agent David Chen worked as a liaison officer coordinating with allied intelligence services on domestic security matters. His job was to share intelligence about domestic threats and coordinate response activities. What Chen discovered was that intelligence sharing about domestic threats was actually intelligence coordination for domestic control operations designed to eliminate American sovereignty and independence. Chen documented how foreign intelligence services provide technical assistance, operational support, and political cover for deep state operations against American citizens. The foreign coordination provides international legitimacy for domestic repression, while ensuring that resistance movements cannot find sanctuary or support from foreign governments. Chen preserved communications, showing how international organizations will support martial law in America as necessary for global stability and democratic governance. The plan includes using foreign pressure and economic sanctions to isolate any American resistance movements while providing international recognition for the post-constitutional government that emerges from Operation Chaos. When Chen attempted to expose foreign coordination in domestic control operations, he was told that discussing intelligence relationships could compromise alliance security and result in prosecution for espionage. Operation Chaos operates according to a specific timeline designed to ensure maximum disruption during the 2024 election cycle while preventing organized resistance from developing effective countermeasures. The economic warfare component of Operation Chaos has already begun with systematic destruction of small businesses, inflation targeting of essential goods, and banking policies designed to eliminate middle-class wealth. Current timeline indicates economic disruption will accelerate through early 2024, creating financial desperation that makes Americans susceptible to accepting authoritarian solutions to manufactured economic problems. Mass immigration destabilization and racial violence triggering are scheduled to intensify during spring 2024, creating social chaos that overwhelms local government response capabilities. The social breakdown is timed to coincide with primary elections, ensuring that political campaigns occur during maximum social instability and fear. Cyber warfare attacks on critical infrastructure are scheduled for summer 2024, creating cascading failures that will be blamed on Trump supporters and used to justify emergency government interventions. Infrastructure attacks will target communication networks, power grids, and transportation systems in Trump-supporting regions to prevent organized political activities. Emergency authorities will be activated in response to the manufactured crises, suspending elections and eliminating constitutional government under the justification of protecting democracy from domestic terrorists. Martial law implementation is scheduled for September 2024, ensuring that the 2024 election either doesn't occur or occurs under conditions that guarantee deep state control of the outcome. Operation Chaos includes comprehensive plans for identifying, targeting, and eliminating resistance movements before they can organize effective opposition to deep state control. Digital surveillance systems have been expanded to monitor all communications, financial transactions, and movements of potential resistance members identified through social media activity, political donations, and association patterns. The surveillance state provides real-time intelligence about resistance activities while identifying leaders who can be targeted for arrest, economic destruction, or elimination. Legal authorities have been prepared to justify mass arrests of Trump supporters, conservatives, and resistance leaders based on broadly defined domestic terrorism statutes that criminalize opposition to government authority. Detention facilities have been prepared to house political prisoners during the martial law period, with processing capabilities designed to handle hundreds of thousands of detainees. Economic warfare capabilities include systematic seizure of assets belonging to resistance members, defunding their ability to organize or communicate while enriching government operations. Asset seizure operations target not only resistance leaders, but also businesses, organizations, and individuals who provide financial support to opposition activities. Operation Chaos leverages advanced technology to monitor, manipulate, and control American citizens while eliminating their ability to organize resistance through digital communications. Social media platforms, search engines, and communication systems have been weaponized to suppress resistance information while amplifying government propaganda and psychological manipulation. Artificial intelligence systems monitor all digital communications for signs of resistance activity, automatically flagging individuals for surveillance, economic targeting, or arrest. Emergency authorities include capabilities to shut down internet access, cellular communications, and digital payment systems in areas where resistance activities are detected. Communication shutdown capabilities ensure that resistance movements cannot coordinate activities or share information about government operations against them. Technology platforms use sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques to modify user behavior, promote compliance with government authority, and discourage resistance activities. Behavior modification systems target specific individuals with customized psychological operations designed to neutralize their resistance potential through fear, demoralization, or ideological conversion. Operation Chaos represents the final transformation of the United States from a constitutional republic to an authoritarian state controlled by globalist interests hostile to American sovereignty. The post-constitutional government that emerges from Operation Chaos will integrate the United States into international control systems that eliminate American independence and sovereignty. International organizations will provide legitimacy and support for domestic authoritarianism while ensuring that American resources serve globalist rather than American interests. Operation Chaos is designed to permanently eliminate the possibility of American independence or constitutional government, creating irreversible changes to American society and political systems. The transformation includes demographic replacement, economic dependency, and cultural destruction that ensures future generations cannot restore constitutional governance or national sovereignty. Operation Chaos is currently active and proceeding according to predetermined timelines designed to eliminate constitutional government before the 2024 election. Economic warfare operations are accelerating with systematic destruction of conservative businesses, rural communities, and traditional American industries. Mass immigration operations are overwhelming border states and conservative communities with populations hostile to American values and constitutional government. Intelligence sources indicate that Operation Chaos can be fully activated within 72 hours of a triggering event, which could include Trump polling success, resistance organization, or foreign policy developments. The activation triggers have been designed to ensure that the deep state can implement martial law and eliminate constitutional government before effective resistance can organize. Despite systematic suppression, patriotic Americans within government, military, and intelligence agencies are working to expose and resist Operation Chaos. Courageous Americans within the system are documenting Operation Chaos activities, preserving evidence, and providing intelligence to resistance networks outside government control. These patriots risk their careers, their freedom, and their lives to ensure that loyal Americans understand the threats they face and can prepare appropriate responses. Independent citizen networks are developing communication systems, mutual aid capabilities, and defensive preparations that operate outside government surveillance and control systems. Citizen resistance organizations understand that government institutions have been compromised and that protection of constitutional rights requires independent organization and preparation. Operation Chaos represents the gravest constitutional crisis in American history, with implications that extend far beyond partisan politics to the survival of constitutional government and individual liberty. The systematic corruption of government institutions necessary to implement Operation Chaos has eliminated the possibility of internal reform or peaceful restoration of constitutional governance. American democratic institutions have been captured by forces hostile to constitutional government and are being used as weapons against the American people. Constitutional government can only survive if enough Americans understand the threat they face and organize resistance activities that operate outside compromised government institutions. The survival of American liberty requires citizens to choose between accepting authoritarian control or organizing resistance that may be labeled domestic terrorism by the government they resist. America faces the most critical choice in its history: accept authoritarian control through manufactured crisis or resist the deep state conspiracy to destroy constitutional government. Operation Chaos is designed to eliminate the possibility of peaceful political change while ensuring that resistance can be labeled terrorism and suppressed through military force. Americans must choose between accepting permanent subjugation or organizing resistance that acknowledges the government has become the enemy of constitutional liberty. The timeline for Operation Chaos leaves minimal time for Americans to organize effective resistance before martial law eliminates their ability to resist openly. Every day that passes without organized preparation increases the likelihood that Operation Chaos will succeed in permanently eliminating constitutional government. The deep state is preparing to destroy America rather than surrender power to Donald Trump and the American people. Operation Chaos represents their final solution: civil war, martial law, and the permanent elimination of constitutional government. I've presented classified evidence proving that your government is planning to wage war against you to maintain control over you. The Civil War is coming whether you want it or not, because the deep state has decided that destroying America is preferable to losing control of America. Your choice is not whether there will be conflict. Your choice is whether you'll be prepared when the conflict begins. Traditional political solutions have been eliminated by Operation Chaos. Constitutional government will only survive if enough Americans are willing to defend it against domestic enemies who control government institutions. I've fulfilled my oath to defend the Constitution by warning you about the enemies planning to destroy it. Now you must decide whether you'll fulfill your duty as Americans to preserve constitutional government for future generations. The Republic will only survive if you choose to save it. This is Director James Morrison. The deep state is coming for your freedom, your country, and your future. The question is, what are you prepared to do about it?